Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And thank you so much for tuning in. Boy, I have an amazing guest who has a very powerful and impactful story to share with us today. Her name is Avonley Lighthouse. I'm sorry, Avonley Lightstone. Sorry, I told you I can't read my own writing. She is a survivor and a storyteller with a purpose whose journey began with unimaginable trauma when, at just 3 years old, she tried to save her mother from a house fire. Her mother did not survive, and her father, overcome with addiction, gave Avonlea up for adoption. What followed was years of emotional, physical, and mental abuse where love was conditional if it existed at all. She is the author of the book titled Strength of Scars, where she shares how she transformed from a voiceless victim into a resilient, faith driven woman who empowers others to rise from their own scars while opening the door for real conversations around trauma, identity, forgiveness, and God's grace. Avonlea, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cheryl, for having me on here. It's just an honor and a privilege to be able to share my story with others.
It is such a powerful story, and I mean, it took my breath away when I first read your bio. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and tell the listeners what happened.
Okay. I guess we'll just go back to the start of the tragedy when I was 3 years old. At this point in my life, I was living with my family, biological family in India. My parents had nine siblings, nine children,
Wow.
and I was the second youngest in that group. Most of my siblings at this point were like in school, and I just remember just a typical day. I grew up in a very poor area, poor family, but as a little child, I didn't know anything of that sort.
Hmm.
My parents did a pretty great job. At least my mom, she did a really great job of making sure that the kids were loved, they were cared for, they were washed, just having your basics needs met. And I never really thought much of it because, I was still young. I wasn't, at that age, I wasn't comparing myself to other kids.
Hmm.
I was just living that carefree life of just being a joyful little child. But one day, at the age of 3, while my sisters and my siblings were out to school, I was left home alone. My grandparents was gone with my other siblings. I remember mom making food for us, and next thing I remember, her sari, which is a very flammable material, caught on fire. And I just remember seeing just the flame just going um, up like super fast. And she started screaming and trying to fight the fire. And it was terrifying because I have never heard my mom scream. It's usually the other way around. A child is the one that's screaming, and the mom always goes in to nurture. Well, I felt like, well, I need to do something about this because she's obviously is in pain and hurt. So I remember knowing where my dad was. I went over and just tried to like nudge him awake, and he was just completely passed out and drunk, unresponsive, and I just was shaking him, and he just wasn't there. So then I can hear my mom screaming. I just didn't. I don't know. As a 3 year old, I knew like I had to do something. I couldn't go get my grandparents because I didn't know where they were at,
Hmm.
and I also didn't want to leave her feeling in the state that she was in. So I just went and like hugged her because that's what parents do when a child falls and gets hurt. They usually just go in and hug, and that's just what I knew best. Is okay. Well, I know hugging her would probably help her. And I remember just taking her legs and just holding on as tight as I could. And she was like pushing me away at the same time fighting the fire. But I wasn't letting go. I just held on tighter because I knew exactly what she was trying to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, I'm going to just hug you tighter if it's going to help you make you feel better. And pretty soon I just remember feeling the flames get on me. And I started like screaming too, but I wasn't letting go. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like feeling like, well, if my mom is standing here feeling this pain, then I can endure this pain too. So I'll just hang, hang in there, hug her as tight as I could, and just continue to scream. Well, I think from my scream is what woke up my dad to
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. Next thing I remembered was I was being taken to the hospital. That was my first time going through some things very intense.
Now, was your mother taken to the hospital at the same time?
hmm Yeah, we were wheeled into the same ambulance together, and we were taken into the hospital. And I don't remember like where she went. I
Mm-hmm.
think they were taking care of her, cleaning her up, and because we were separated, all I remember was I was having like nausea. I was feeling nauseated, um, bowel problems, feeling really sick, puking, having um, the runs. Just feeling a lot of shock.
Yeah.
And I remember then being placed in this well, it's not gigantic, but for me as a little child, it was pretty big for me.
Mm-hmm.
This bathtub, and I just remember them scrubbing my back and my legs. I didn't have any pain medication, so back then they didn't have like pain medication. We lived in a poor area and technology wasn't as advanced. And I just remember like, your body is so amazing. It just wants to like heal. And when it knows it's damaged, it knows what it needs to do to heal like the damaged cells. And I remember them just scrubbing the clothes off my back, and I was just screaming. I remember just feeling like this is the worst pain I've ever went through. Even being caught on fire, like I just wanted to go back in there. 'Cause there's a point where like the fire itself just numbs the nerves and you can
Mm-hmm.
deal with it after a certain point. But like when your body is wanting to heal, you could feel like things like oxygen going into your cells. You can just feel a lot of things that we take for granted,
Mm-hmm.
and just how amazing our body is to just want to like just go in and armor up and what it needs to fight to like kind of heal the body. It's like it's very miraculous in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
but it was painful. And just dealing with that pain, I've never felt such pain in my life as that. After I finally was cleaned up, I was placed on a cot to just air dry. And yeah, just like beef jerky, getting cured.
Oh my God.
Uh, and I just was laying there, and they wheeled my mom to me, and she was completely like covered from the head to toe, just burnt,
Oh.
unrecognizable. She was completely different, but you know your parent, you know your family, your sibling. There's that connection with them when you're really close, and you just know that bond is still there, and you know that that's them, even though on the outside they look completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And that I knew that was my mom, and she couldn't speak, and she was just really sad. It was just like a really sad situation. She passed away 3 days later. Um, and then after she was gone, my dad, um, this is like the first time I've ever felt rejection,
Mm-hmm.
is my dad not coming to the hospital to check up on me and to see if I was doing okay. Like, so for months I was just healing by myself, had nobody to check on me to see if I'm okay. And, you know, and in that moment, that is when I completely really took on how important life was. I
Mm-hmm.
took the imprints of the memories I had in India, my mom, my siblings, and what we were doing, what we did. You know, those memories came alive to me and it really stuck to me because that's all I knew. And
Mm-hmm.
where my family wasn't coming around and my mom passed away, like that's what I leaned on was those memories. And that's where like I get a lot of people ask me like, how can you remember have such vivid memory? Well, when you go through some traumatizing events in your
Mm-hmm.
life and you're kind of going it by yourself, like you are going to remember a lot of it. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
remember a lot of the pain,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to try to take the good stuff out of it. And that's really how I was able to preserve those memories.
So how long were you in the hospital then?
I'm not quite sure. Probably just a few months until I was fully recovered. Because they need to check to see if you're healing properly
Mm-hmm.
and such. And when I did get released from the hospital, I remember being like Mowgli style, blue underwear, going to a Catholic church because we were Catholics and paying respects to my mom. And and then right after that, my dad takes me to the orphanage to be adopted.
Oh my God. Now, even while you were in the hospital, I mean, you had quite a few siblings. Did any of your siblings come to visit you and to check on you and, give you love I
They
mean, that had
did. They did only to those 3 days when my mom was alive. Because I do remember my mom handing my brother, big brother, an orange and saying like, "Take care of your little sister."
Oh my
Promised me to
God.
take care of her, and he said he would, but that was the end of it. So I don't know like what caused them not to come around, or if my dad had said something. I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm sure it's the guilt of him being drunk and not being there to help me or my mom. And so some people just don't aren't able to cope
Mm-hmm.
in a way that is beneficial. So, there's so many different coping mechanisms that people go through,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not always the right way. But like we're not taught okay, what's the best way to cope? Especially in culture where like men is supposed to like be strong, and they
Mm-hmm.
can't express their feelings. They have to lead. There's just a lot of stress, and I understand that now that I am an adult and I look
Mm-hmm.
and I have more compassion towards the situation, but it still is it's saddening.
How long were you in the orphanage before were adopted?
So I was in the orphanage for maybe like a couple years before I was adopted. My dad, he ended up putting my two other siblings, no, three other siblings up for adoption. And I was fortunate to be adopted into the same household as my two other siblings.
Mm, okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's some
Yeah.
consolation. At least you had two of your siblings with you. But
hmm
I take it it was not the greatest home.
No, it wasn't. It was, it's just really sad because when I was in the orphanage, they teach you to forget your culture in India and start living the lifestyle of like just the American modern lifestyle. So etiquette, the way you speak, we had to learn a lot of techniques that was completely different from our culture. So we just had to forget like a lot of things in India that we were raised about and then start pretty much grooming us to be ready for our new families in America. And the reason why they did that, I feel like, is So then it's easier for parents, your new families, to help you adjust, and it's not so hard on them. And I think that's probably why they kind of groomed you and getting you ready.
Yeah, interesting because you think it would be the other way around, that they would help preserve your culture and your history,
Hmm.
um, because the
Yeah.
focus should be on the child, the children, rather than making it easier for the adults, especially considering the amount of trauma that you went through.
Yeah, and it's really sad because I was in the orphanage, there were so many different types of kids from different like background, just having different personalities, struggles, traumas, and yeah, you think that they would do a better job of trying to help parents to like recognize, okay, when you, and I'm sure they did in some depth, but like, no, we really had to forget a lot of things. We were like my older siblings, they had to take care of the younger kids, and so they just knew what they needed to do. It's like, okay, you're at this age, you need to start helping out, and we just kind of was kind of built to be not as inconvenient to our um, new parents, right? Because they don't want like any bad ratings or they just want to make it like at least accommodating, knowing that hey, you had like a good it was a good experience, you can come back here later. Yeah, so when we were adopted, I just remembered like my siblings and we were just very much happy knowing like, okay, this is the home that we're going to be going into. This is our new parents, this is our new family, because that's what we were told. And we visually like saw kids getting adopted with their parents coming up and picking them up. However, for us, we had to meet my parents at a certain location, and they took us from there. And so like so at the very beginning, it was just very much like, hey, I'm happy. It was better than being at an orphanage. And they kind of like get you all hyped up for these families in America. Like things are going to be great. You're going to be loved. And so then you start looking forward towards that. And when I first met my mom, I just remember like my siblings, we were just ready. We're like, okay, this is our new family. Definitely an adjustment. We were adopted into a rural area in Utah, in a ranching community where my parents raised cattle. And I think everything was well. Like, we didn't see anything wrong because at the time my mom was in the process of adopting another child, and she had brought over a lady from Colombia to live with us during the time that she was pregnant. And once she was delivered her baby, then she would leave. So during that time that she was still like carrying her baby, like this lady was cooking for us, she was cleaning for us, and so I just saw that as a normal behavior. And my mom was really kind and sweet. However, I now realize I think she was putting on a face because we had an adult in the home, and she didn't want to make them realize like, hey, there's nothing bad going on. As soon as my baby sister was born, she went back to her family in Colombia. Things started changing a bit. My mom started getting really upset, angry, especially with my sister, my older sister, because she just naturally started going towards the babies that she had and started caring for them. Because at this point, my parents had, let's see, five, six little babies at the age of like 6 and under.
Wow.
yeah. And so it was a handful. So my sisters, they just naturally did what they were taught in the orphanage: care for the babies, help the
Mhm.
household to make it a little lighter. And that's kind of like what they did without being asked to. And I just remember like my mom would get so upset with them, like, no, I could take care of the baby, but then she would just complain a lot too. And my dad would tell us like, oh yeah, she's just so stressed because he doesn't know what's going on because he's out on the ranch working. And he would just tell us kindly, like, just, maybe help the siblings out and see what she, play with them, just kind of take the stress away. And I remember thinking, like, oh, that's exactly what we're doing, but we're
Right.
getting told not to do that. It wasn't making sense. And we would get up in the morning, make our beds, and get ready. Like we were good
Mhm.
kids. It wasn't like we were difficult. We
Mhm.
kept our rooms clean. We had everything tidied. And my mom would get so upset about that she would just rip the bedding, throw our stuff from the closet, and then say, "Your room is a mess. Clean it up." And so now we're getting like mixed messages because we were taught to be clean, taught to be
Mhm.
helpful. What can you do to make things easier for your families? Because you don't want to make it as hard for them. And we were doing all those things that we were taught just to like have things smack back at us and being told like this is dirty. And we were getting so much mixed messages, and we were so confused in what we needed to do. At this point, we were starting to walk on eggshells.
Mhm.
We didn't know like whatever we were doing would just make her angry and mad. So I remembered like, okay, maybe I'll just do dishes because I want to do dishes. She would get so upset. But then she would have my like another sibling that was like supposedly golden child come in and do the dishes. And then it's like it was just a lot of this kind of motion of you would do this and then she would get angry, but then bring another child to take what you were doing. But I didn't quite understand, why are you taking away something that I'm helping you with? They could help you with some other ways. And it was, and then we're starting to see like clashing within the siblings,
Mhm.
rivalry. It was,
Mhm.
we were just, we just also started figuring out who was above us, who was below us, and where you were placed. And it was just kind of hard, and we kind of couldn't figure out like what her deal was.
Mhm.
And my older sister, she started becoming more verbal, like, now you're not my mom, because my mom never treated us this way. And
Mhm.
so when she started doing that, my mom started becoming more physically abusive. So whenever she got angry with her, then she would attack me
Oh.
when I wasn't even around or doing anything. And there's times where my sister was at the point where she was going into puberty and she was growing breasts, and my mom molested her in front of me and groped her. And I was in the hallway because I always wanted to see what she would do to my siblings,
Mhm.
because I didn't want to have those kind of attacks on me. And when I
Right.
saw that, I was so like distraught. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, do that to her. And it definitely like I lost. I was a lot like in a fear state at this point because
Mhm.
I didn't want those things to happen to me. And I struggled in school. I couldn't figure out how to, because I came to America with 8 different dialects. So learning English, math, I was dyslexic. I was getting things confused, A's and well, S's and D's and B's backwards, and I would process things right up here, but it would come
Mhm.
out wrong. Or it would come
Mhm.
out wrong on my in my like whatever I wrote, but I would get them wrong. But I wasn't getting the help that I needed. My
Mhm.
teacher saw that I was struggling with that. Not only I was struggling with it, but I just also knew like the pressure and the anxiety I was having at home. I was bringing it into the school, but I didn't know
Mhm.
how to like best navigate that.
Mhm.
Um, and my mom was told like, hey, she needs a little bit more tutoring. Is there any way I can help her tutor? Yeah, there was times where I was able to get tutoring from my teachers, but many times before then, she would just have me go down in her basement, and she would have like a desk, and I would have to do extra lessons after I came back from school.
Mhm.
And it wasn't at my grade level, it was like 2 or 3 years beyond my age level. And but she would never like tell me how the problem worked, how to solve
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
and just told me like, "Okay, you are failing. You need to catch up, do these
Mhm.
lessons, and be on your way. And you can't eat until you like take care of this." So I just would stay down there crying because I knew I wouldn't be able to get through this. Didn't have ChatGPT where I can just
Right.
punch in my answer, you know. Mm-mm. So I just was sobbing and crying. And when she found out, like, hey, I wasn't making any progress, then she would send me to my room for a few days, 2 or 3 days without no food or water. And that was just like how she was. She treated some kids so much better than others. Other people, other kids were much more abused. She later ended up adopting two more children,
Oh my
and
God.
then my little brothers, started sexually abusing them. And I remember telling her like, "Hey, this is what's happening. You might want to like get after them." She didn't. She allowed this nasty stuff that they were doing to my siblings, and they were like 6 months after they were adopted. You
Oh
got
my
my
God.
brother taking a knife and saying, "If you say anything, I will slice you." Stuff like that. It's just really hard because I really wanted to like go and help out wherever I can, but like anything I did, I was at fault or I was
Mhm.
one to blame. So I didn't know exactly how to help them. And my one of my sisters ended up getting urinary tract infection, and you kind of have to wonder where that came from.
Mhm.
But again, my mom didn't want to take care of her bedding. She wouldn't buy her diapers. She would just get upset with her when she wet the bed, tell her, okay, you gotta get up early in the morning and wash your clothes out in the creek, not in the washer, out in the creek, even when it's like super, super cold, 5 in the morning. We had to get up early to catch the bus, which took like 40 minutes to get to our high school. And it was just really hard. That was just
Mhm.
a really stressful lifestyle.
So it really sounds to me, now, I'm no expert, believe me, but it sounds to me like this woman was seriously mentally ill. And I mean, what like year or what time frame was this taken? What was this happening in? How long ago?
It was like early 2000s.
Wow. I would have thought. And so this is another one of, my fantasy things in my head just got blown apart, is that people who are going to be adopting children would be so thoroughly screened and vetted. And, if you're taking on a child, even two or three siblings at the same time, that whoever was in charge of the adoption would be looking into every single corner of that person's life.
You think so, and um, you think that they would do, and I'm sure there was an extent to it. But then there's
Mm-hmm.
people like my mom that's really good about like having a certain image, and
Mm-hmm.
she's a narcissist, so she has a way of making people feel like they can be she can be trustworthy and such, and she's able to frame herself in a way where she looks like she is a really good fit. And yeah, and most people like in my community, there was a lot that knew that there was something going on, but then there's so much that people are like, oh, so grateful for that parent that took on all these children like that. Like, you hear
Yeah,
those
it was
stories.
basically, it was all about her. It
Hmm.
was not about you and your siblings.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what her motives are, but I'm sure it has to do with getting more money
Hmm.
somewhere or somehow, just anything that benefits her. Because this is not a type of person that has an ability to love a
Yeah.
child. So I, this is just my personal opinion that there's other motives
Hmm.
besides that. It's just really sad that us children had to go through what we went through, just to allow her to get what she wanted.
So, how old were you and your siblings when you eventually left the house? I mean, eventually, you graduated high school, you were able to get out on your own. How did that happen? And what was the reaction of your adoptive mom?
Yeah, it's just the typical going through school, high school, graduating, and then going to college. And
Hmm.
that is what got me to leave.
Hmm.
Honestly, I was really afraid to leave
Hmm.
because in many ways, I knew I was insecure and I wasn't ready. Like,
Hmm.
I was completely hurt and in so many ways. So I had ended up working a lot as a teenager, trying to get away from my mom. There's
Hmm.
just so many things that happened where I couldn't work on the ranch. She took those things that I enjoyed doing. She took those away from me, and she would say stuff like I was messing around with my dad and the person that they hired, and that everybody's talking about it, but none of that ever happened. But because I didn't want our family to have like a bad reputation, I really took that, and I didn't want my dad's name to be tainted because
Right.
he would never do something like that, nor would the person that they hired to help out would ever do something like that
Hmm.
to me or my sister. But I I knew like I that was like being on the ranch, being with my animals was a way to escape the pain that I was going through, and it was a way for me to cope. And
Hmm.
when I couldn't do that or be able to see my grandparents, I then was like, okay, I got to figure out somewhere what I need to do. So I started working. I remembered working 3 or 4 jobs and was just working a lot. And
Wow.
I worked a lot throughout the year, and I started making quite a lot of money, and I was kind of proud of myself because of the accomplishment, because I was at this point looking at my future,
Hmm.
because I knew that if I left the home, I could never ask my parents for help.
Hmm.
Like there was no way that they would offer help to me if in any situation there was an emergency. So,
Hmm.
in some ways, I was prepare myself for to be out my on my own. Well, the day came when the time was getting closer where I was getting ready to leave, and my mom had my golden sister who was the same age as me. She came in with a brand new car, and said, "Oh, she worked so hard for this. This is your graduation gift." So then I was like getting excited. I'm like, okay, maybe there's like a gift for me, and nothing. What I did here is my sister asking, "What are you getting Avonley for her graduation gift?" And she said, "We know what's going to happen to her. She's going to turn out like her sister, get pregnant, and not like not do well in life." Literally what she was saying, because my older sister ended up leaving. She got kicked out. My mom kicked her out, and she ended up getting pregnant.
Hmm.
early into like as soon as she left. And so I remember hearing that, crying and saying to myself, no, I'm never going to do that, just because you feel like that's the route you want me to go. So then you can feel
Mm-hmm.
like you can, I don't know, just like I'm not going to allow you to think that you're going to get that answer. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not who I am. That's You're not going to define me by that. I'm going to be better than that. And I've always used her talk, because she would always talk like that to my siblings, and I would that's one of the things that kind of helped me. I know it's not always helpful for people, because it can actually turn people really bitter and negative, but
Mm-hmm.
I actually use those information of her belittling me, saying nasty things about me, as a reason to like hold on to, and just I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna to become better. I'll show
Mm-hmm.
you. So I actually ended up using that as more of a motivation. But as I was getting ready to leave, I didn't get my driver's license, and I took driver's ed like in high school, but my mom would never let me get my driver's license. She would just never let me drive. And my first time actually driving to it was to college by myself. And I remember I was just so scared. Um, we didn't have any like lights, and so like learning to stop, and
Oh my God.
it was just like such a shock for me, because I go from a little town of 400 people, it's a population, to a college that has a university that has more lights and a lot more people. Yet it was still small, but to me
Yeah.
it was really big, and I was just so like scared. I remember asking my dad, like, okay, where's the money that I've earned? And he's like, your mom took it. Your mom took it. She told me that you had to, like rent to pay, dentist bills, um, food to pay for, all the things for you to like. So she ended up taking all my money that I had earned, that I've never used anything for. And it was just so hard. It was just so crushing, just to know, like, okay, I worked for nothing. I don't have anything. And it was just really hard to like go from a place to a new place where you're trying to survive as an you're still a teenager
Right.
in so many ways, and you're trying to figure out life. And during those small moments, you need a parent, like, hey, call them. Now, what do
Mm-hmm.
I do here in this circumstance? And I remember the car I drove, it was just like a really old, beat up car. And I didn't know that you had to change oil every so many mile. You know, I ran on that car without an oil change for a good year. I
Well, how would
never,
you know?
yeah, I didn't know. And I felt like, I think it was actually more than a year, honestly. It was so bad. And I look back thinking, like, oh my gosh, there were so many times in my life, like, a mother and a father needed to be there to help guide you
Right.
in ways of, okay, this is what you need to do. Remember to do this, give you a call. How are you doing? None. I was completely on my own. And so I was absorbing and watching my peers, watching what they're doing, and that's how I started learning. And it was just really sad, but yeah, no, they didn't know anything about it, but I didn't want to be that odd one. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of quietly watched and learned, and
Wow.
that was my life.
So then, okay, then you graduated college,
Hmm.
right? And you're out in the world. At that point, did you have any contact with your adoptive parents at that point? I mean, did they even know that you graduated college?
No, like I've never reached out to my adopted family at all, because I don't know any of their information.
Hmm.
I would say a couple of years, 3 years later, maybe a few years later, I don't know. I was thinking of like, hey, maybe I should reach out to them and see where they're at. It would be nice to connect with them. So I reached out to the orphanage that I was adopted from, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, yes, I know who you are, and I remember what your dad said. He does not want to talk to you, so I cannot give you any information about his whereabouts. That was it. And so yeah, I've been trying different ways to reach out, hoping I did a 23andMe in hopes that
Mm-hmm.
maybe like there's a family member that's looking for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no luck.
Wow.
And it is one
Wow.
of the reasons why I wrote this book, Strength of
Mm-hmm.
Scars, is I'm hoping that I will be able to reach my family in India because even
Mm-hmm.
though like what my dad did to me was like wrong and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the right way to handle what you gone
Right.
through, like I still like now that I'm an adult and I look at like the heaviness as a parent that cares for a child, what it takes, it's hard. And so I have a more compassion towards him in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope that I can be able to reach out to him and just forgive him, letting him
Mm-hmm.
know like things happen for a reason, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. Just don't dwell on it. Just like live your the rest of your days in peace. And that's kind of like a gift I want to give to him, hoping that he might still be alive.
You
And
have a
I'm
very kind, kind heart
thank you.
and very forgiving.
Yeah, well, I've learned that if you can't forgive other people, God won't forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to go through any stages of healing, God understands our pain, and He knows our struggles. And by forgiving, is what's going to give us the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
We doesn't mean that it's gonna make the people that caused harm on you okay to treat you that way. It's never
Mm-hmm.
okay. But there is a point where it's fine to like part ways
Mm-hmm.
and, not have a relationship with them and just move
Mm-hmm.
on.
And you actually have three little girls of your own
Mhm.
right now, right?
Yeah, I do. I
And
do.
how
I
old are
have,
they?
they're older. So I have a 15-year-old, I have a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah. They're fun. They're really a joy. One of the things I remember as a child, I was suicidal a lot
I'll bet.
because of all the things I went through. And there was at one point where I remember going into my dad's shed. He had his guns, he had oil, he had gasoline, he had all of his stuff there. I remember going in there saying, like, you know what? I could chug a thing of diesel, nobody would care and I'd be fine, and then I could, I just had all these thoughts. But then there was something always inside me that would say, but you don't know what your future holds. You might
Right.
never get to meet your kids. And I would say, no, I don't think I'll have kids because I'm not lovable. I don't think there's somebody out there that would love me.
Mm-hmm.
Just all these thoughts. But then he would just plant, like, but you would never know. That's what you're thinking right now, but like who knows where you would be? Don't you want to be curious to stick around? It's like, yeah, I guess so. I'll be curious. And then it's like, would you want your mom to win? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want her to win. So now I look at my kids and they're beautiful, they're fun, and I can't really imagine why anybody would treat their kids the way they would, even just a child. Even if I were to adopt a child, I would treat that child as my own. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just really sad to know that there are people out there that doesn't really care for your well-being.
Mm-hmm. Would you do me a favor and I see your book's behind you. Will you take one of the copies of the book and just hold it up for the
Oh
camera
yeah.
so that the people on YouTube would be able to see it? Because that cover
Yeah.
is so compelling. Look at that. Oh
Thank
my
you.
God. I look at that little girl. I just want to pick her up and take her home. I would treat her well.
Thank you. This is actually my little my little youngest.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I just had them like put the Indian outfit, just
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, they did a great job. Great job.
Thank
Now,
you.
do your girls, I mean, they know your story, they know your
Yeah.
history.
They do.
And
Yeah, it's the whole thing is really sad because my dad, he really wanted to be my adopted dad. Really wanted. He was a good man. He was the one that provided that love.
mhm.
Um, and like, my kids never had a chance to get to know him because my mom
Mhm.
wouldn't ever let him come around us around.
She must be a terribly unhappy person.
I think she's miserable in many ways.
Yeah. Gosh. Oh my goodness. Well, okay, so you tell us what prompted you to write the book because, especially with that history or with, what happened to you, I mean, I would think it would be very healing, very therapeutic and cathartic, but at the same time, very difficult to write the book and to relive some of that as you're writing it.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't so bad when I was writing the book. I think, and God is really like creative. He just knows exactly how one person needs to heal that
Mm-hmm.
will help them.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I went through a healing journey for the first few years. I, recognized by being in denial is what's going to hold me back, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
never be able to find um, the release of freedom that I'm looking for,
Mm-hmm.
happiness, don't want to be held in bondage in somebody else's life. And so he just like clearly just planted just different seeds of what I needed to do. And I remember like going to the library, picking up self-help books to kind of start helping me inward,
Mm-hmm.
and started to do like certain kind of affirmations, like things like you are worthy, you are loved, God loves you. Even though those things were really hard for me, like
Mm-hmm.
it's and I still struggle with it. It's not easy, but it gets easier. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to like tell yourself that you are worthy, you are a child of God, and everyone is deserving of a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Just because somebody harms you does not mean that you're subject to become a dirt for them, or
Mm-hmm.
stomping
Mm-hmm.
mat. Like, it's not okay. And so once I understood like what I went through was abuse and had to face it, I had to go back to my past and just really dig deep of the things that caused pain and hurt. And I remember like going through the forgiveness process, and this is going to be different for a lot of people because
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness is not like one way that works for everyone. It's different. Um, he just told me like I got to forgive my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive your family, forgive them. And so I went to my mom a few times and told her like I'm sorry about what happened. Could we move forward, start fresh and move forward? I'm willing to like just drop everything and let it happen. Just be happy because we have a good family. I know there's
Mm-hmm.
so much potential, and we're starting to have kids. I would want like cousins to be really close together. And she just laughed it off. She just laughed it off like, mm-mm. and um,
Jeez.
and just got to the point where she just pushed me further away. And I just remember saying like to God, like, what am I supposed to do with her? Like, it's still such a lot of pain. And
Mm-hmm.
even at this point, I was still suicidal, and I was telling God, like, I have kids now. I gotta take care of myself. But this is painful, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to take a lot of this pain that I went through onto my kids. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want that. I want to cut it off right at me. And he just said, you did all that you could. Now give that to me. Give that burden to me. And I did, because there was nothing else that I could do. So
Mm-hmm.
I trusted God, and I gave the rest of the burdens to God. And I don't know, that day just felt I just felt a sense of peace and just like
Mhm.
closure. And instantly, God healed me from any suicidal tendency. I've never had any suicidal tendency since then.
Mhm.
And I was doing really good for years. I'm like, this is great. I don't need to be in their life. I can cope and move forward and just start building my tiny girls and my own
Mhm.
family. And that was my focus. And then one day, I got this urge, write that book. Like, I don't want to write that book. What are you talking about? Like, I don't want to write that book. And I ignored it
Mhm.
and kept getting dreams like, wake up, say, write that
Mhm.
book. And finally, he's like, I told him, I don't want to write that book. Like, I'm done with that past. I'm setting it aside. And he's like, it's not for you.
Mhm.
It's your testimony is what's going to help reach other people that are going through similar pains or worse pains than you are.
Mhm.
And it just gives them a motivation um, to lean on me if it's a desire for them. It's
Mhm.
healing. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not sure how it's going to get to people, but I'll go ahead. And really, as I started writing, it just, I remember asking God, like, where do I start? And He would just plant visions, things that I've like suffocated because I didn't want to bring them up. It just started coming up. And He's like, hey, write this down, write this down.
Mhm.
Oh, remember that email you sent your mom about this letter? Um, Go there. But I never sent it. I never sent that letter. It was in my draft. And he's like, read through that. And so I read through it and I started picking up. I'm like, oh, okay, this is great. I'll add this. I add this. So there was just so many different ways that he was helping me out that made it easy. And I was just typing. I never typed so fast in my life, Cheryl. Like I I just was up early in the morning and I was done like at 3 in the morning. Get back up, like only sleeping a couple hours, and then sometimes I would finally be so exhausted I'd go to bed early just to wake up at 3 in the morning and start writing. That's not me. I
Mhm.
like my sleep.
Mhm. Yeah.
I have to have my 8 hours of sleep or else I just can't function. And
Mhm.
so it's by the grace of God that He even helped me. So, the glory goes to Him. And I'm just really happy that, like, it didn't, like, trigger me
Mhm.
at all. But I was
Mhm.
really sad. I remember crying at times, thinking, like, this is so sad. This poor girl
Mhm.
went through this, and that was me. Like,
I know.
it was hard in some ways, but like it was it it wasn't challenging where I couldn't write it
Mhm.
because I already went through that forgiveness.
Mhm. Wow. I'm telling you, this has just been quite a story. I just you have so much strength and courage and resilience. Do you even realize that?
uh, you know what, I just feel like that's just who I am. Like
Mhm.
that's how I lived and I don't know any better.
Mhm.
But yeah, I look back at some times and like I just can't believe that's me.
Right. Well, thank you for writing the book, because I really do believe you're going to be helping an awful lot of people. I know you already have. Now, do you work with people? Do you coach people, or is it just this is the message and they.
Yeah, so I will be coaching people here pretty soon,
Oh, good.
and I will be like speaking at schools as a motivational speaker. They're all still in the works. I'm currently working with a producer that produced the movie 300 and Spiderwick's
Wow.
Chronicles. He's helping me develop this into a Christian movie.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so yeah, so there's a lot of things that are happening.
Hmm. So now, where can people find you? Where can the listeners get your book? How can they connect with you? Anything that you would like to promote? Now's the time.
Okay, yeah, so I am You can find me at Avonley Lightstone on any of my social media, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And if you want a copy of my book, you can go on Amazon, just click that name. You can also go to www.avonleylightstone.com to get like a free chapter of my
Mhm.
book, just to get an understanding what this book, if this book is something that will be beneficial for you. I don't
Mhm.
want to push anybody to do it, but if it is something that you want to read and be healed from it, and move from it, like, yeah, just go ahead and grab a copy of that chapter. And
Well,
then I,
it is a
sorry.
very powerful story and very inspiring. I mean, very inspiring.
Yeah, thank you. It did take some work, and I'm really happy. Really, it's really God's driving me, making all this happen. So
Mhm.
again, I give that glory to God, and I'm just the vessel.
Mhm. And I'll bet your girls just love you.
I hope so. We get along pretty well.
Mhm.
Yeah, we do.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so uh, all I can say is again, I'm in awe. It is very rare that I am rendered speechless, but I pretty much am. This has just been such an amazing story, and it is such an honor to know you, really.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. I appreciate it, and appreciate you allowed me to come onto your platform and talk to your viewers. Thank you so much for that.
And when you do get that movie done, I want you to contact me. So I give me the link and I can put that in the show notes after once it goes live. So, the listeners can find that there.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask because it getting a screenplay is pretty expensive. I am
Yes.
doing a GoFundMe
Okay.
to kind of help pay towards the screenplay, and that just gives me the right to like keep my story more a credit for
Hmm.
me, and it's not like it gives me the rights to make it like more involved.
Okay.
And so if any of your viewers feel like they want to help me out, I can send you like a link where they can donate.
Absolutely do that. I would love to put that and
Thank
include
you.
it in the show notes. So hopefully,
Thank you so
we'll
much,
get a
Cheryl.
little bit of help. I know because I know how expensive all this stuff is. So,
Yeah, it
but
does.
and yeah, and just I'm so impressed and so proud of you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. I appreciate it.
And thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Oh my gosh, what an incredible, powerful story. Yeah, I'm speechless. Like I said, I just don't know what to say. Just an amazing story. So, really finding the good in the bad things that happen to us. It's a powerful story of forgiveness and moving on. And, that's basically what we need to do. And do get Avonley's book. Check out her website. Again, looking at the image of the book is absolutely, it's very riveting. So, yeah, and just remember there's a lot of power in forgiveness. I know it's hard, but there is a lot of power in forgiveness. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.